Right guys, welcome to another nighttime talk with an expert. This one is living a life of freedom beyond limitations with my main man Rich Casement. So, I met Rich, before we do the intro, start off. So I met Rich when I first opened the shop.
Yeah.
And then you were one of the first to come down because you started with the Clean Break beer.
Brewing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was all the brand that was around it. It was just one strand.
Yeah, I was a supplier, wasn't I?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
And then it just built from there, and we've been on very similar trajectories. But then you've gone off and branched into all this.
I've diversified.
Yeah,
I've had to
exactly.
pivot.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be really cool. And I will hand over to Rich now. Same format. It's just do your thing, and then we'll do a Q&A, and we'll just chat. And
Cool.
I'll talk.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So I'm the fire because it's freezing in here.
So you're talking about the brand and
Just you, man.
Yeah.
And what this. I mean, I'm really interested in what living a life of freedom beyond limitations is, what it means to you, and then what can people do to achieve it.
to get it themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'll leave it.
All right. Thank you. So I'm talking to this camera now, right? Talking to this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I suppose the best place to start is with kind of previous history. I suppose like what life used to be like, if you like. So I worked for over 20 years of my life spent working in the drinks industry, in the alcohol industry, kind of, doing what most people do, perception of how we should live our lives, what society tells us, kind of go to uni, get a job, climb the greasy pole, that kind of thing, more money, earn more money, get a better car, get a better salary, keep pushing for promotions and all that kind of stuff. And that was fine. And I did that for the first 20 years of my career, through my 20s and my 30s. And and like generally speaking, life was pretty good and pretty successful and progressed through various different roles. And then I guess when kind of got into my 30s and we had kids, and things sort of started to change really with my relationship with alcohol, started to have kind of less enjoyment from the experience of drinking alcohol, being a consumer of alcohol. Didn't really kind of make an association at that point to it being restrictive in any way or holding me back in any way. It was just kind of like, had a few drinks, you've got a hangover, you kind of make do, you just deal with it, don't you? That's what we've done forever and ever. We just assume that that's the trade-off that we have to have, that we have to pay off for, going out and having a night out or going and socialising. So, that's what we've done for many centuries and many decades, and that was what life was like. And it wasn't really until we had kids and I started to kind of question whether perhaps there was a slightly different way of living, or perhaps actually how I was living my life was perhaps not in the best possible way. Questioning where I was, how I was spending my time, the sort of the behaviours, the habits that I was doing, and progressively things from the repercussions of having a drink, even having a couple of drinks got progressively worse, to the point whereby even like a couple of pints there would be a big payoff the next day. There'd be, sleep would be affected at night, and that would then have a knock-on effect the following day. You'd be anxious or grumpy or just generally not present or not performing at your best. And then that sort of led me into COVID, when I think for a lot of people relationships changed with alcohol. Started very much like most people, probably sat in the sunshine having drinks quite regularly most days, and then realised that wasn't sustainable. And then when COVID lifted and went back to work, doing the job that I'd always done for many, many years, there was just something wasn't quite right. Like something just didn't stack up in my head, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. I couldn't work out what it was. Just wasn't feeling good inside myself. Essentially was feeling unfulfilled, feeling like there was sort of a lack of meaning and purpose in my life, I suppose. Went back to work, doing this career that I've known for many, many years, working in the drinks industry, and was quite acutely aware that I just didn't feel feel like it was part of me anymore. I didn't feel like it was what I wanted to do anymore. It felt like I was kind of sort of stuck in this world, in this career, in this job, in this sort of lifestyle, which just didn't feel like it was aligned to me anymore, aligned to my values. And I remember it was October 2021, so it was just over 3 years ago. I was driving to Manchester to take part in the Manchester Marathon, and I was on for a really good time. I've been training really well. I felt physically fit, felt really good in myself, and I was pretty sure I was going to get a PB all being well. Nothing sort of happened, nothing serious happened on the day. And I was driving over the top where the highest point of the M62 is, and I was listening to a podcast, and something that was said in the podcast just kind of made me stop mentally, and just literally brought me to tears. I was just like, oh my God, I'm physically at my absolute peak, as fit as I've ever been, in great shape, but mentally I'm just not here. I'm just not present. I'm just not. I don't feel right at all. Something's just not right. So I went and ran the marathon, got a PB, as I was expecting to. Felt great about that. Obviously, really proud of myself. But then kind of went away from that thinking, right, something's not quite right here. Something's not in balance. Felt quite sort of quite stuck. Felt almost held back. Felt like I just kind of this underlying feeling of I felt like I had something more to offer or give or kind of achieve in life, if you like, than what I was doing at the time. And didn't really do anything about it at the time. Got to the end of the year, Christmas came, and I was like, actually, I feel like this might be a good opportunity to take a break from drinking alcohol. And that's kind of where it started. At the end of 2021, take this break from alcohol. At the time, it was purely a 6-month break. I had an event halfway through the following year, which I needed to train really hard for, a big triathlon event. And I just thought, right, booze is not conducive to training at that level. Like, great, it's a great excuse for me to get rid of the booze. Of course, we need an excuse not to drink, don't we, other than just not wanting to. So that was my excuse in inverted commas. And so did that. Kind of started to reap all the benefits, thinking, okay, right, I feel better in my body, I feel better in my head, I feel more present, I feel more focused, I've got more clarity. Feel fitter, faster, feel more confident, like the feelings of anxiety and sort of depression are starting to leave me as well. Like, right, this is good. But the challenge was that outside of that, back in work life, I was still surrounded by booze. So I sort of detached myself on a personal level from alcohol for that period and was reaping all the benefits. But then I was still within this career, was sort of stuck, felt like I was almost still being controlled by booze, by the alcohol, because it was paying my wage, it was my living, and it felt like a conflict, because on one hand I was actively distancing myself outside of work from the thing that inside of work I was supposed to be really getting kind of passionate about and sort of selling to people and promoting and marketing. And it just didn't feel aligned. I felt like I was really restricted by this. I didn't feel like I had sort of freedom to sort of express myself as I wanted to. So I kind of came to the conclusion that it was the right thing to do was to move away from my long-term career, which is fair enough for some people in certain stages in life. But when you're in your early 40s, you've got 2 young children, you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got bills to pay. Plus, I also didn't really know what I wanted to do, so making that decision to step away from that was like a real fear. It was a real concern. It was a real leap of faith, and it took a lot of thinking and guts really to sort of pluck up the courage to make that decision. I did. I found a job that was out and doing something else, which perhaps wasn't as exciting as previous jobs that I'd had, but I felt like it was a good segue out of that. Left that job, went into this new career. At that time, I was starting to work with coaches myself, so mindset coaches, positive psychology coaches. I've been working with a running coach as well for the first time in my running career, and I was starting to get the benefits from doing that as well, the mindset work, the self-development, all of that kind of thing. And what then came was a short period of time where I left my old career, went into a new career, which I think subconsciously, even from day one, I kind of knew wasn't right for me, but it was almost like it was a segue. It was the thing that needed to pull me out. It was the thing that needed to get me free from the clutch of what I had before. So it was almost like, right, this isn't the ideal thing. It's almost like the first manager for Manchester United after Alex Ferguson. We kind of know this isn't going to be the right manager, but it's kind of okay for now. And it was like me with that for the job. It was like, right, I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be me for a long-term career, but it's good enough to get me out of what I was doing before, and then we'll figure it out in the long run. So did that for a couple of months. In that period, my coaches that I've been working with held a retreat for men, a men's retreat, wellbeing retreat. So I went on that, and it was at this retreat where I kind of conceived the idea for Clean Break, which is my brand, my lifestyle brand. And yeah, so we worked through that weekend on mindset, on overcoming limiting beliefs, working through kind of what this idea that I had, what this kind of sort of dream and this goal that I had was. And that was to create a lifestyle brand, a brand that represented health and well-being and opportunity for everyone. And yeah, so made that decision at that point. Shortly after that, the filler job, if you like, kind of came to a natural conclusion. I wasn't right for them and they weren't right for me. So armed with this idea, this kind of self-belief, this opportunity, we've just remortgaged the house as well, so it was kind of like everything was sort of aligning, if you like, the stars were aligning. And that job ended, so I thought, right, it's now or never. I'm going to throw myself into doing something which, you know, feels like, for the first time in my life, I was doing something that felt right rather than like my head was telling me it was the right thing to do. So it was all driven by gut instincts more than anything else. And yeah, and this was when was this? So this was 2022. So this was about this time 2 years ago, October 2022. So yeah, just threw myself into this opportunity. Got in contact with a few people that I knew from the industry, the drinks industry, my old network, and just went about working out how to create what started as an alcohol-free beer brand, or that was the launching pad for Clean Break. And that's kind of, yeah, and the rest is sort of history almost. The rest, what evolved after that, since then, really has been a journey of, and anyone who starts a business will tell you, it's never a linear journey from point A to point B. There's so many peaks and troughs in that journey that you have to kind of overcome and you know, sort of points where you find you have to, you know, sort of find strength and self-belief. So yeah, so it started life as an alcohol-free beer brand, Clean Break, and this concept of supporting other people, helping other people to find not just meaning and purpose in life, but health, well-being and opportunity for all. And it's evolved into so much more. It's evolved into, now it's a coaching business. So I help other people to find more fulfillment, find more meaning and purpose, to overcome limiting beliefs, and yeah, to make positive progress in their life in much the same way as I've done in my life. In terms of where the idea of falling in love with freedom comes from, well, for me, the things that I coach on and the pillars that I sort of focus on with Clean Break are mindset, movement, and lifestyle. So mindset, overcoming limiting beliefs, finding, you know, what's your true values in life, what is the meaning and purpose that you're looking for in life, helping people overcome limited beliefs and set meaningful goals and work towards them. And of course, in doing that, you tend to find that people get an element of spiritual freedom. You know, when people sort of have a sense of value in their life, have a sense of meaning and purpose, you tend to find that people feel like they're liberated from, you know, this kind of society's perceptions of what we sort of should or shouldn't be doing. And then in terms of movement, it's predominantly about running, but it's more so just about helping people create consistent and sustainable movement habits within their week. So whatever that looks like, whether it's walking, whether it's running, whether it's yoga, whether it's going to the gym, it's helping people build a consistent and sustainable movement routine into their week, so that they are then able to have the sort of physical freedom that comes from these habits. So for me, it's running. It's all about running. And running gives me an element of freedom to move my body in the way that it was designed for, in the way that it was meant to be, in the way that I want it to, and the way that I can sort of rely on it to enable me to do so. It also gives me mental freedom as well. So for me, running kind of almost creates a void in my brain when I've got lots of clutter going on. It's the thing that I lean on that enables me to sort of kind of have this an element of escapism. So that's the kind of the freedom that comes from the movement. And then the lifestyle stuff is all about taking a break from the booze, you know, and Clean Break really, the name itself, the brand itself stands for taking a clean break or making a clean break away from habits, behaviours, beliefs, anything that's no longer serving you, relationships, careers, anything that's no longer serving you, anything that's perhaps negative in your life, enabling you to take a clean break from that. And for me, a lot of it was around the booze and how much of a limitation alcohol was on my life. You know, despite me for many years thinking it was the thing that was giving me a career and giving me success and giving me opportunity in the future, it was actually all along the thing that was holding me back in many ways. So the lifestyle part of it is about giving me freedom to live the life that I want to, free from you know, the perceptions of society that tells us that we should or shouldn't do things in certain ways, and freedom to kind of be who I want to be and express myself how I want to be without the fear of other people's opinions, I guess, in many ways. So yeah, that's a
whistle stop tour.
A whistle stop tour, if you like. Yeah.
Of the past, what, 4 years? 4 years?
Well, it's
2 years. 2 years to Clean Break.
Realistically, it started when we came out of COVID, so that was halfway through 2021.
Yeah.
So that was when fundamentally the shift started to happen, and I think COVID was kind of a catalyst from a mental health perspective. I didn't realise during COVID. It was only when we came out of COVID, I went back to work when something wasn't fundamentally right. There was some kind of imbalance, and whether it was that period that had been the catalyst to, you know, having that impact on me and me sort of recognising when I went back to work, something's not quite right here. So that's when it sort of started, and then, you know, taking the first step towards taking action and making change was taking a break from the booze, and that was at the end of 2021. 2022 was a year of self-discovery. 2023 was a year of self-development, and 2024 has been a year of just trying to pivot and trying to work out how I can move a business, a lifestyle brand, but essentially a dream, forward in a sustainable way that enables me to, you know, create something which I perceive has value for me and my family and for other people as well. And yeah, I will tell you that's not straightforward, you know, running a business. There's lots of complexity. So, you know, I've had to go back to work part-time. You know, we've had to be quite, you know, sort of ingenious around sort of financially, like how we manage our finances and things like that. So, yeah, it's not easy in the slightest, but it's been an interesting journey. Yeah, as I say, many peaks and drops, ups and downs.
Can you just hold your mic?
Yeah, of course.
There you go. Would you switch back to your old life, even though it's hard and you have the ups and downs and whatnot?
No, I mean, my wife said this to me the other day. She said, "Well, look, you know," I said, "What's the worst that can happen?" You know, the worst that can happen is that, you know, I need to go back and get a full-time job. And she said, "Yeah, well, you can easily go back into doing what you did before." I was like, "I don't want to go back and do what I did before." You know, that's not an option. That's not on the cards in the slightest. And then from a drinking perspective, although I've never said I'll never drink again, I just take the approach that I know I'm not drinking today, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to drink tomorrow. Every now and again, you kind of think, like, I cooked dinner for friends on Sunday, and they opened a bottle of red wine, and my friend's wife was like, "Oh, do you ever get the temptation to have a drink?" And I was like, occasionally, like having dinner with you lot now, you know, roast lamb, you've got a nice bottle of red wine on the go. It's like, yeah, there was a slight temptation, but then I just think, well, why would I bother? why would I bother having one drink? Because I know ultimately, I got to a point where it just made me feel crap. Any perceived benefit of relaxation in the moment was overridden by the sort of negative outcomes, impact on sleep, and then the next day as well. So no.
When you were talking, it just reminded me of that saying where people say choose your hard, life's hard, choose your hard, being in debt hard, making money is hard, or running your own business is hard, but working in a job
you can't stand is hard. Yeah, choose your hard. Which option do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's hard. And there's something that Gary Neville said, and when he was talking about when he had therapy, when he played for Man United, and it always stuck with me, and it always works for me when I reflect. And it's like the therapist just said to him, "Did you think every day was going to be a good day?" No. And then that's it. So if you have a bad day, it's a day.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying, it's just like that's it. It's a day. Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
As Stephen Bartlett always says that too many people let a moment in a day affect the whole day.
Yeah.
And he says, well, just break the day up into quarters. So if you have a bad morning, don't worry, you can get it back in the afternoon, the evening, and night time.
Yeah.
It's just a moment, a moment in time.
Yeah, it's like a round of golf. If you have a bad hole, you've got to leave it at that. You can't let one bad hole ruin your whole 18 holes of your round of golf. But yeah, I mean, the mindset stuff really comes into its own when you're talking about, how you're turning up and how you're responding to events in your life. And it was one of the famous Stoic philosophers, easy for me to say, Epictetus, I think it was, or Marcus Aurelius, said that it's not events that shape our world, it's our beliefs about them. It's what we choose to believe about them. And the things that we are in control of in our life are ultimately our beliefs and our actions. Everything else is to some degree out of our control. So, don't get caught up sort of worrying about trying to control things that are out of your control. Can I use the toilet just to blow my nose?
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a bit of a cold.
Thank you. And we're on an intermittent break. Or is it intermittent? Intermittent. It is, yeah.
It's popcorn.
Right. Yeah. I'll start doing that. No, brilliant. So, guys, the way this works is it's kind of like a Q&A as well. So if you've got any questions for Rich and whatnot, I want to delve into more about the ultra running, and because for me, I'm really intrigued with if you're drinking, and regardless of what you use for stopping drinking, it's like what do you replace it with? And then if you're ultra running and you're running 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, is that healthy? Or it's just I just find it all interesting. Well, I just find it interesting. Well, I just find it interesting.
I know that.
But this is it. I just find it all intriguing. Any guys want to?
Yeah. No, I'm not a rule.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have any specific questions, more kind of like comments really.
Whilst we're having the break, are we still having the break?
You can do what you want, yeah.
How I can sort of totally relate to how with drinking sometimes, other than like all that hangover, you don't really realise how much it's affecting you. So whilst I was drinking regularly on the weekend, I never really thought I had kind of like anxiety or depression until I stopped.
Yeah.
And then it was really surprising, like you say, about how small things, like you just generally feel more confident, calmer, just things that I wasn't kind of expecting.
There's a base level that just kind of gets elevated from sort of down here, and all of a sudden you sort of your base level's up here.
Yeah.
And you still get like the peaks and troughs, but just generally overall at an average you're so much better, and a lot of people don't realise because they don't ever take a break.
Exactly. And the thing about like what I can relate to you saying something just didn't feel quite right, and I sort of felt like that as well. Not really kind of like putting my finger on what it was.
Yeah.
Really. I think it's because I've been like regularly drinking from my teenage years.
Yeah.
Up until my 50s, never had a break. I never kind of like knew any different.
Yeah.
Until I kind of like I say, when I stopped, it's like, gosh, I'm just so much different.
Yeah. Well, we sort of, for many years it was always a case of like you were either an alcoholic or you weren't.
Yeah.
You know, and if you, exactly, yeah, and you know, now it's much clearer that actually there's a spectrum, and you know, we sort of refer to it more now these days as alcohol use disorder, because that reflects that spectrum of alcohol use much better. And you know, we're all on there from sobriety, from abstinence to alcoholism and addiction at some point on that spectrum. And someone who's not an alcoholic or doesn't class themselves an alcoholic yesterday, they could be only a few drinks or nights out away from it being a real problem. So I think these days there is becoming a much better appreciation of that spectrum and that slippery slope which you can end up going down towards it. But for me, it's like alcohol wasn't really a problem. You know, in hindsight, I can look back and realise now that I use it as a solution to problems. You know, and left unchecked, that does become a problem. But like, you don't need to, you don't need to have a problem to want to have better outcomes in life. You don't need to reach that sort of rock bottom to think, actually, I want to better myself. I want to be better. I want to strive for more. I want to strive for, you know, more, to achieve more, or to show up and be a better person in the world, or, you know, be more present in the kids, whatever it might be.
What was your reason for stopping 11 months ago?
Well, I always do try January, but I just kind of like, it's probably because I'm like sort of in the menopause as well, so I'm finding like my energy levels are just like terrible. And I was going to the gym and just like, just not being able to do it, you know, because I just so tired. So I obviously didn't try January, which I normally do. And I always noticed the benefits straight away in terms of energy levels. And I just kind of like it on. I was just getting more and more benefit from it as the months went on. But like you say, I don't say to myself, I'm never going to have a drink again, because for me that's too much of a hard kind of mindset. I just think, I'm not drinking today because it makes me feel well. I won't have a drink tomorrow, and that's the way I kind of like, that's my strategy.
All or nothing thinking, I think, can be quite a destructive sort of mindset to have, because, you know, if you say that people say it all the time, people who drink say, they wake up and say, I'm never drinking again. Or people who but also people who I see it with people who are trying to take a break from alcohol or trying to stop drinking alcohol. They say, that's it, I'm never drinking again. But then, of course, what inevitably does happen for a lot of people, not that it's anything their fault, it's a highly addictive neurotoxin we're talking about here that's readily available, that's pushed on us, that's promoted, that's marketed to us. Of course, if they do have a drink, then they beat themselves up. You know, and then it's like, oh God, why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? You keep doing it because it's everywhere, and society tells you that you should be doing it and you need to be doing it. So don't beat yourself up, you know, and just take it one day at a time. It's like,
like, you remember when I quit drinking and we were talking, and I was like, it was so funny because I was going on all these Facebook community groups. It's like, oh look at this, there's all these Facebook community groups. It's like for people who've stopped drinking, and I must have spent like, I'm not going to name them, but I must have spent like 2-3 weeks on them, and then it slowly dawned on me, no one's sober on them. they just go on there to basically do what you've done, like offload it, oh my God, I broke, I had a glass of wine, and then it's like this big sob story, and they go to just this reinforcement or validation, oh no, it's okay. It's okay. And it's like, no one's sober. So I was just like, right, I'm off it.
I think that's what I think. But I think, you know, I think a lot of people are trying to, but I think there's two things that you've got to be, if your intention is to stop drinking, you know, whether that's short term, long term, tactically, I think whatever it is, you've got to be A, ready, and B, you've got to want to. And if you're not both of those things, then the chances are it ain't going to stick. You know, because you can want to stop drinking but not be ready to. You know, you can want to stop drinking but still just be like, oh, I've got mates who probably want to stop drinking but they're not ready to, because they still have this belief system that they need a drink.
I bet you've got mates who stop drinking. If I told anyone.
Not in my immediate circle.
I'll tell you, I've found a lot of people like that. It's like, it just come out the woodwork. It's like, I've not been drinking for about 4 months. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah, occasionally, like, I'm a member of quite a few sober communities and alcohol-free communities, and I do get messages from people quite a lot that just, or whether it's on social media and just say, oh, really appreciate you know, what you do and your messaging, you know, just to let you know I'm 6 months alcohol-free. I got a text message from a lad. It was about 2 months ago. It was actually on my 1,000 days alcohol-free anniversary. Not that I count my days, but I knew it was because someone. Someone who I followed on Instagram who stopped drinking like a couple of weeks before I had, and she said that she was 1,000 days. I thought, oh, that must be me. So then I checked, and I was like, oh, 1,000 days then. Anyway, he texted me. He WhatsApped me on that day, and he said, congratulations on 1,000 days. He said, I'm 365 days alcohol-free today, funnily enough. And he said, and I went and delivered a talk about sobriety and taking a break from alcohol at his place of work in Leeds a couple of years ago. And he said, and a lot of it comes down to what you coming to work and doing that talk, because I've never heard anyone talking about not drinking like that before and talking about it in a positive way and kind of sharing their experiences so openly and honestly. And he's like, a lot of it comes down to what he said. He said, I'm in Guatemala, I'm on a beach in Guatemala, I'm living my best life, I'm traveling South America, you know, I'm having a great time. I ran my first marathon a couple of months ago when I was in Barcelona just because I could, and all of this wouldn't have been possible, I don't think, if I was still drinking. So this took a lot of it.
Some positive experiences on Facebook. There's a group called Life Without Alcohol, and it's a really supportive group. And there's a lot of people that post like pictures on there of what they used to be like, what they are now, sharing lots of positive, you know, experiences in their journey. So I've kind of like had a positive experience from those sober groups on Facebook, and that's a particularly good one, I think.
I think they're really supportive. It's like one of the things I always say to people is, like, in terms of advice and tips, I say, find your tribe. Find a tribe of people that get you, that are going to hold you up, you know, and support you and encourage you and motivate you and inspire you, you know, to carry on doing what you're doing. You know, if all you do is change the liquid in your glass, then you're probably not going to make it stick. Because if you just carry on doing the same things with the same people in the same places, at some point you're going to be like, oh God, this is boring. You know, because alcohol made the things that you were doing not boring, going to the pub and sitting in the pub all day. Yeah. So you have to change more than just the liquid in your glass. You have to change what you do, you know, the activities that you do, the hobbies that you have. To a degree, you have to change the people that you associate with.
Can I ask a personal question? Does your partner drink? My husband still drinks. And it's very supportive with his son, but we still have to kind of like go to the pub a couple of times on the weekend. And for me, it's like so boring.
Yeah, she
it's
does.
Kind of like,
yeah, she does.
I find that difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, it's, you know, making a choice like not drinking alcohol is something that only you can do for yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting him to give up, but it's kind of, it's just finding that balance of what he wants to do and what I want to do, and it's like, sometimes I'm in situations where I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, a bit bored, or...
Yeah, and you've got to sort of be a bit selfish. I think you've got to, you have got to sort of say, look, I'm doing this for me, you know, I'm doing it because I know I'm a better version of myself for this, and in doing so, you end up showing up as a better version of yourself for other people as well.
Yeah.
You know, like I have much better respect for myself now than I ever had before when I was drinking. You know, I also don't have what I class as FOPO, fear of people's opinions anymore. You know, because their opinions are theirs. Their opinions are theirs. It's like, I don't, you know, that's none of my business what other people think about me, but it just gives me the sort of the belief and confidence in myself to sort of show up and be who I am. But yeah, she still drinks. She doesn't drink as much as if when I was drinking, you know, although we were drinking buddies.
Yeah.
But she still enjoys a glass of wine. She doesn't have a problem at all with it. You know, she can take it or leave it. She doesn't really suffer from hangovers. And if she has been out, she just gets on with the day. She doesn't let it impact like our life as a family, kids or anything like that.
Yeah. I think in the early days, there's a couple of comments that husband made, which I thought was a bit. He said, "Oh, where's my old cow gone?" You know, that kind of like this whole drinking.
Yeah.
Which I kind of thought was a bit of a unusual or strange thing. It just it comfortably with me, sort of saying that. I mean, now it's sort of accepted I don't sort of drink it's interesting, isn't it? It's kind of like what people.
The dynamic of relationships 100% changes, whether that's like, you know, platonic or marital relationships.
Yeah.
It will change, it will evolve, and
Definitely.
in some cases those relationships will end. I know people whose marriages have ended.
Well, sobriety is more important to them, isn't it, than, you know, if they're in a relationship and he or she doesn't accept, you know, who they are or want to be anymore, then.
No, exactly. Yeah, and for some people, like, you know, and especially in friendships, you know, what you often find is the friendship was based around drinking. You know, it was everything you did together was around boozing, going to the pub, and then when you remove that, it's like, right, well, what have we got left? And in some cases, it's like I don't see anywhere near as much of my mates from uni 20 or 25 years ago, friends of uni, who all still live near us, and our kids are the same age, and my wife and their wives are still very good friends. I just don't want to do the same things that we always do before. But at the same time, I appreciate that they don't want to do the stuff that I'm doing. They don't want to go and run ultra marathons. They don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning and go out with head torches on and go for a run. That's fine. I don't expect them to do that. But also don't expect me to want to go and sit in a pub for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon, because that doesn't interest me.
You know what? When I think about people like our age and more, it's like, especially if you've got family, I always find it like, regardless if you're drinking or not, it's like just spending that amount of time in a pub. Anyway, and I see people on a Friday, I'm like, how can you do this when you've got like little kids and stuff like that? And it's like, I always think like that. It's because I don't, like Cora, my little girl's 6. I just couldn't think of, like, if I had an opportunity where we were going to be hanging out, 100% that's what I'm doing.
When you sort of look for justification, you say, oh, well, you know, you love going to the pub, don't you, with Daddy? Or like, you know, we'll get you your favourite packet of crisps, or you get a Coke, or you get to sit there and play on your tablet all day. And you kind of, you know, you create this narrative in your head that they enjoy doing that, just so that you feel better about doing it yourself. It's like, they don't that's what they do. They're doing it because you're doing it. You know?
I don't take one to the pub, but no, what I was meaning is when you like, if I was to walk out here now, like on a Friday, I always think about it. I just see the pubs are packed.
Yeah.
The people are there, like, you know what, a lot of them might not have families, but I always know that quite a lot of them do. I just couldn't think about doing that on every Friday.
Rather than being at home with the family.
Yeah, doing things with the family. Absolutely. Little girl 6, it's like, you spend most of your adult life with your children as adults. Do you know what I mean? It's like, when this it's magical. You only really get to experience your kids as kids.
Yeah.
They won't remember it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We spend most of our life as adults.
Yeah.
And it's I always just think about it, and I always when people say, oh my God, I need a break, and I get all this kind of stuff. Even when she's throwing little tantrums and doing toddler stuff, love it. I love it. I just want to be around it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Christ, you've got
It's
more
amazing.
patience than I have.
Yeah, but it's amazing because I know that it's never. Yeah, I just don't want to miss it because it's gone in the blink of an eye. I was trying to bring back. Do you ever think? So I found it really interesting when you were talking about how everybody sits on a spectrum of alcohol, even if you don't drink alcohol, and then this idea that. Do you ever think there'll come a point where it doesn't matter what that group is? As in, you know, it's like, oh, I'm hanging out with those guys because they don't drink alcohol. Do you ever think there'll come a time where it'll be like, we're just doing that thing? It doesn't matter if you drink.
It becomes all inclusive.
Yeah, it's like, I always find it, because eventually, the same things that, don't you feel like sometimes that, this is just me, this is the way I think, when I stopped drinking alcohol, and so I didn't do any of the real, like, apart from that moment in time where I went into the community group, just quit. But I've never changed anything else that I did. Still do all the same things. It didn't change me. Just alcohol isn't part of it. And I think about the same reason that you just said there about alcohol is the one thing that defines you and links you and keeps you, like, you know, the one thing that you have in common. Do you think it will eventually happen? Well, the only thing we've got in common is we don't drink alcohol. Do you find it?
Do I think the only thing we have in common is we don't drink alcohol?
It's just like the only thing we have in common on the flip side is that we drink alcohol.
It's question. I'm not sure.
These are the kind of things that I think about.
We haven't come to
Does that mean you migrated your friendship group to people that don't drink? Is that what you mean?
Well, I just find it like there's this
Or is it society?
yeah, I think it's both. I just think this is just the way it's like that often. Then it's like, right, you either drink or you don't drink. We have sober groups. You can have groups for the alcohol, but then we have sober groups. And I find a lot of people would love to go to sober raves but you can still drink alcohol. Like, do you sometimes find that it's like some people won't do something because they think, well, I'm not sober. It's like, well,
yeah, I see what you mean. I think like what my interpretation of what you're saying is, and I think about this quite a lot, is that we love to put things in pretty boxes with labels on. Like we love to have clear labels about things, and you know, it's right, it's wrong, it's black and white, it's good or bad, it's up or down, it's left or right, and then we do it in politics. And what that does, and we do it in the sober, the alcohol versus alcohol-free sphere. You either don't drink or you do drink, and I think what we fail to appreciate so often these days in life, in so many different realms, is that there's nuance in life. There's so much nuance. You know, nothing is black and white. Nothing is so straightforward that it's binary, that it's one or the other. And I think whenever we fall into this trap of creating this binary society or belief, you know, it causes division. You know, and for me, one of the things for me that cause the most division in life are politics and religion, because you know, you either believe in one thing or you believe in the other. And I think that there is this element with the sort of the alcohol-free movement, is that, you know, you either don't drink or you do drink. And like, I sort of, you know, I'm at a stage now where almost 3 years, it's like, I'm pretty sure I could have a drink and it not be an issue, you know, and you know, in some ways I think at some point I might do that. You know, I may have a whiskey, I may have a glass of wine. I probably won't ever drink alcoholic beer again, because I don't see the point, because you can just get just as good a beer. But like a glass of wine, just socially,
with good food.
With good food, yeah, but that's more around the sort of the experience, isn't it? It's that association of a glass of wine with Sunday dinner or a decent meal or whatever. So, like, I think there's more nuance to everything in life than people appreciate. And I hate it's like you sort of, you have to feel like you're put into a box. It's like, where do I sit? Because
a non-drinker.
And that's it, yeah.
But it's like, where do I sit? Because
Yeah.
I wasn't an alcoholic, so then people are like, oh, right, you weren't an alcoholic, so why don't you drink?
Yeah.
And my response used to be, I used to try and find myself giving a really lengthy, wordy, sort of almost like justifying why I don't drink. Oh, because it just makes me feel really bad, anxiety, I was waking up in the middle of the night. And my response now is freedom. That's literally my response. Why don't you drink? Freedom. It gives me the freedom to live my life the way I want to. You know, and that's...
You know what it is? Do you know what I'm thinking? I was just thinking of the example. It's like, and you know when people, like, you do sober walks, so you get to sober community, you go for a sober walk. And I always say laugh, because like when I go for walks with my mates who still drink, it's not like we're walking the street peaks drinking.
No.
Like, everybody's sober. You know, and it's like, and then it comes to the end, they might have a couple of beers, whatever, but by the time you've done that, so I always find it, that, and I think that's where I'm coming from. I've never been one for getting into, like you say, the boxes, because I think if you have interest in hobby, then I think this is where it comes stuck, because a lot of people's hobby, or what your class is always, is drinking. And that's the thing, you need to have other things, exactly, that's what they fill their spare time with.
I think as well, the people who make the decision not to drink, I think it does, you do get to the point where being around drinkers you feel a bit uncomfortable, and also the non-drinkers you tend to find you often feel like you're on a similar level to them in terms of kind of mindset and belief systems, and so you kind of seek out. We always do it, don't we? We find and I said it before. Find your tribe. Find a group of people that get you and understand you, and you know, laughed about and we've shouted about and we've promoted getting pissed and drinking and having a laugh. But I feel like the non-drinkers don't get that. So it's like now it's their time to sort of shine and say, do you know what? I'm going to celebrate not drinking because I celebrated drinking for so many years. Now I'm going to celebrate the opposite of doing it. And then the drinkers kind of almost have this subconscious guilt or fear that there maybe they are aware of it, but maybe not. Sort of underlying sort of sense of, it kind of showing me a mirror. I sort of know that they're right, but actually I'm just not ready for that. So I'm just going to stick two fingers up at you metaphorically anyway, and just be like, nah, fuck it, I'm going to go to the bar and get pissed.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting as well, 'cause we talk about movement a lot, and so I definitely think it's a culture thing, big time. Because I hear a lot about there's a global stop like going sober movement, and if you actually look at the stats, like 55% of the adult population like drinking it don't drink anyway because of the one thing that you mentioned, religion. A lot of cultures you don't drink.
yeah.
And I always look at this culture and other European countries and America, and it's like, and I always like, obviously comparison, but you always think, how did it go so wrong for us in terms of why do we have this binge drinking mentality, all or nothing, eating's cheating, like, whereas there's other countries like the European ones, like the Mediterranean, they'll have a glass of wine every night. And it picks up one. Well, but this is what I mean, and it's like, and then when you think about over half the adult population in the world don't drink anyway, because of all these different things, and it's like, what is it about UK culture and like American culture as well?
Your old industry. I think that's the biggest answer.
The alcohol industry has a huge role to play
so
in
much
this.
more sophisticated in the US and the UK.
The UK, yeah.
Anywhere else.
Yeah.
When it comes to the marketing message and the billions that are being spent on brainwashing all of us, basically.
Yeah, it is.
I think
All
that's
comes
it.
back to the marketeers, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
We know this. The marketing
over processed food, climate change stuff.
I'm the region, and so the comparison back to Norway, I think what certainly the region probably brings as much. I've never checked, but probably similar. But it's all at the weekend, so it's a society of binge drinkers.
Yeah.
And if you were to have a drink at lunchtime, which is fading out a little bit here, but still exists. When I came here in '91, it was done thing. The industry I was in, everybody went out for one or two, or maybe three at a time. And in Norway, that's a taxable offence. You would just be immediately branded as an alcoholic. You have a problem, can't control it. You would actually be fired, but obviously that would be the beginning of the thought.
In Spain, and do you know what you just said there rings true, because in Spain I was always shocked, and I don't know if this is still a thing, but they'd have a beer in the morning before they started work. Like there's a glass of beer with the breakfast, and it was like this own thing. And then the lunch is a beer as well. And I was like,
it's much more ingrained into society in European countries where, like, they do have a much healthier relationship with alcohol, and I think a lot of it is driven by the fact that alcohol has been ever present within, production and within villages, and food and drink always forms a big part. You go to Italy and like they sit around and have huge lunches together as a family. We don't have that in the UK. We have a cultural blind spot as a society in the UK towards alcohol and our relationship with alcohol and the way that we use it and the way that you're right, it's marketed. And I think it's like, I would say it's a bit like our relationship with alcohol in the UK is akin to the relationship that Americans have with gun ownership, in the sense that not everyone that owns a gun is going to become a mass murderer, but just like in the UK, not everyone who drinks alcohol is going to become an alcoholic. That doesn't make it a good thing that we should be promoting, though. Do you know what I mean? Because the Americans are like, no, we've got to have our right to have guns, we've got to have the right to gun ownership. It's like it's cultural blind spot. It's like, can you not see that the fact that you have mass gun ownership is the root cause of, if people didn't have loads of guns, there wouldn't be mass shootings. And of course they'll argue it to the top because they can't see it because it's a blind spot. And it's the same with the UK. It's like the reason why we have problems with alcohol, the reason why alcohol is the most is the highest cost drug to our society in the UK out of all drugs, is because of the way that we market it, that we present it, that we sell it. My kids' primary school, they promote the Valentine's disco, the Christmas disco, the Halloween disco, the PTA promoting it, and at the bottom of the little PDF promotion flyer, licensed bar available. Like, it's a primary school disco at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Why do you need alcohol there? And they'll say, oh, well, it's to encourage the parents to, might be sitting on the fence about taking their kids to a school party. Well, who's the party for? But then I raise that, and I'm the one that's the weirdo. It's like, don't be such a Scrooge, don't be such a killjoy. I don't want my kids being in an environment brought up where alcohol is totally acceptable, and it's just everywhere. It's saturated.
From an early age.
Conditioning. You're around it from such an early age.
Because it's like, you know what, I used to have that mentality. Like, I remember it, and it's one of the things I regret. My little girl's first birthday, we did it in a sort of mum-in-law's garden. Parents were there, friends were there as well, and we just, like, all the kids were around, but I always remember that we sat there drinking.
Yeah.
Sat there drinking.
Yeah.
I always think about it, like,
it's a reward for the parents.
But we just sat there just drinking, and the kids were running around. It's like, it's all right, they're having a great time. We're having a great time. What a great birthday!
Yeah.
It's like, and I always think about that, and I always remember it.
They do it in European countries. It's there and it's ever present, but it's in a much better integrated into their society. So. It just, and of course you go to any European country, I'd say, in Germany and Norway or France or Belgium or Holland, wherever it might be, and there are pockets of, excess where things happen in excess. Of course there are. But I think generally speaking, because they've been brought up in France and Spain and Italy and Portugal, when they're wine producing countries in particular, they have a much better integrated relationship with alcohol as part of their life, and it just forms, and they don't, it's not this kind of held up as this kind of like Friday night treat, like, sort of wine Wednesday or, kind of Thursday night hits. It's like, oh, weekend's here, let's go and have a drink.
It's Echo Friday.
Yeah, whatever.
That's a big Friday for me. But do you know what it is as well? Do you know what? It destroys the, like, I'm like digging it gut health. Alcohol destroys the microbiome as well.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst things that you can do. Just full stop. And if I didn't stop drinking and focus on so I used to train. Have you found this? Like, I want to just, before we end, I just want to get back and take it back to cover some fitness and up for and the PB. And so when I was drinking, I wasn't focusing on my gut health. Like, I could not get my VO2 max off. Like, it was stuck, and it was really bad for my age. It was like stuck in the late 30s, which is shocking. And I'm talking like late 30s, and it was bad, but you wouldn't visibly see it. Like, you wouldn't look at me and think he's not fit or he's not doing it, but I could feel it. And ever since I stopped drinking alcohol and got help and I started training, my VO2 has shot up to mid 40s in a very quick time. And it's just, did you find that when you stopped drinking? Because you said you hit PB right at the start but you were still drinking alcohol at the time. Have you seen any?
Yeah, but I'm fitter and faster and better than I even was then. Yeah, for sure. Like, and I mean, VO2 max is just a metric really. So it's a bit of a what's the word? Vanity metric in some ways, but it is a good indication of fitness. But then I think what will have happened is removing alcohol will have had a positive impact in other areas. It would have lowered your resting heart rate for a start, meaning that you're burning less energy when you're in general. It would have meant that you're also sleeping better, so your recovery's better, so your body and your brain are recovering better when you're not exercising. When you're sleeping, you're getting proper restorative sleep, which you don't get when you're drinking because you're not able to get into those deep REM sleep cycles.
Do you find that you need less hours?
Yeah.
My sleep is like just, when I fall asleep, I am gone.
Oh,
but then
totally.
I wake up, I don't need as many hours now.
No, absolutely. Because the sleep that I do get is of such a high quality that it's like I can function perfectly well off 5 or 6 hours sleep. I'll wake up and feel a bit tired, but once I'm up and I've had a coffee, there's none of the lethargy and that kind of anxiety and that just general fog and haze that came when you were drinking, even like a couple of days after, because it stays in your system for sort of 72 hours really. You're still paying the price for that in terms of the raise of cortisol levels in your body. That fight or flight mechanism which is stressing your body stays with you for up to 72 hours. So the effects of alcohol are long lasting beyond once you stop drinking. But I think there's other things that would have happened that would have contributed to that performance. The stress that it has on your muscles. The effect that it can have on just your general muscle tone. Just little things like that. So and it may be that you were then able to just be more consistent with your training because you were sleeping better, you had more energy, you were probably eating better, you were probably not even noticeably, you were snacking less, eating less junk. So all of these things would have had a compound effect layered on top of each other to mean that actually that metric of fitness was benefiting from it.
Yeah. And my recovery, like in the moment as well, like it does not take me as long now to get, like, once you've done the exertion, it doesn't take as long to recover now before you go again. Go again.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's weird because everybody, like, they always say it's like you see people and they go, like I'm in my 50s or 60s and it's like the fittest I've ever been.
Yeah.
Fitter than I was when I was in my 20s. And you go, well, how can that be? And it's like because I was really unfit in my 20s.
Yeah.
But it's just I go. There's someone who comes at Functional Drinks Club quite a lot. I call him Captain Chris Harris. It's just Chris. It's because he's a pilot. But he is like the Dave Goggins of all. Yeah. Have you met him? Have you met
Come
this guy?
in here to one of the sessions.
Yeah.
In one of the clubs that go around the pubs or something like that. Or
No, I don't know. I mean, like he is like super dedicated. He's like I think he's either 55 or 56. He's got a resting heart rate of like 45. He just hit on it. He's like, but he is all about diet, nutrition, rest. And you said the word consistency. He does it every single day, even if it's hard. And he'll just get up there and he'll do it. He has this saying, because he comes in, it's like he always holds me to account, and it's like it's driving me, and it's like it's making me better. But he says, I do this because I know 99% of everybody else won't, and that's it, and that's why I do what I do.
Yeah,
and it's elevating because 99% of people won't do this.
Consistency is a massive thing. Being able to show up, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's starting a business, whether it's training for events, whatever it might be, being able to show up consistently day in, day out, when you're not drinking is a total game changer. Alcohol just totally ruins that consistency because of all the reasons we talked before.
I mean, in terms of fitness, not drinking, I lost weight and being able to diet. So it's sort of my body trying to process the alcohol. It's now having to go to the fat. So years of dieting before where instead of seeing any results, sort of whilst I was still drinking, now, massive improvement.
Your energy levels improve, so you just organically feel more energetic. You've got more energy to do stuff. You want to get out and do more things. You don't want to be sat like. I don't really watch TV these days. I don't really sit still. I find it hard to just sit still. I mean, I can sit and read. I can sit and meditate, but I find it hard to sit and watch TV, and it really bugs my wife. Because she just wants to sit down and chill out and watch a box set or something like that. I'm not really interested. I'm really sorry, but so I find that I'm always on the go, and of course when you're always on the go, you're burning more calories than you were. Think about all of that wasted time you would spend thinking about drinking, preparing to drink, drinking, recovering from drinking.
How long did it take you to get ready to go drinking? How many hours did you waste in front of the mirror getting ready?
Oh, no, I was never really that day, mate. No. Can you understand? Although I've had to make an effort these days.
That's it. Just like
exactly fed up. But yeah.
we're actually past 8 o'clock. So I don't know how long you got, but I know we've been doing just chatting and stuff. Does anybody have any particular questions for Rich?
Would you say that compared to when you used to drink, you're a less social person now? Is it just because you don't want to do what they're doing, or because they don't want to make you feel awkward, or are you just as social?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I am probably less social. I think that's there's probably a few reasons for that. I'm more comfortable in my own skin, which means I'm more comfortable with my own company. So I'm happier just being by myself. I don't feel the need to constantly be around other people and sort of looking for validation or what have you or anything like that. But there is an element of not wanting to do the things that the vast majority of my immediate social circle do. So so they would probably say, yeah, they don't. I'm not as social as I used to be, but my social circle has massively broadened. So I've met and made friends and associations with so many more people now through different communities. So some of it is offline, some of it is online. In an ideal world, there would be more of the offline meetups as opposed to the online stuff, because I'm a big protagonist for the in real life connection as opposed to the online connection. But that's just circumstantial. I've got 2 young kids, I've got a business, I've worked part-time at a charity, I'm running a lot, so I only have so much time in my day and my week to be able to travel and go and meet up with people. So but yeah, it's a really good question. I think probably you would say I'm less sociable if you looked at the amount of socialising I did when I was drinking versus now. But yeah, I spend my time doing other stuff now, like other stuff that sort of spark much more real joy in my life, as opposed to the kind of those sort of short-term dopamine pleasurable experiences. It's now I find things that spark true joy and happiness in my world, rather than just going to the pub and getting pissed.
It's probably better quality.
Yeah.
If you don't spend as many hours, if you add up the quality hours, there's probably more of them.
Yeah.
Would be my guesswork. It's been interesting to listen to what you've been saying about before and after being alcohol free. Because I haven't really noticed any change at all. Maybe it's an age thing. So because I'm
What kind of change are you talking about?
because you were saying don't really want to go to the pub that much, not that interested in that kind of life. Some friends have been lost along the way, kind of thing. And my approach, I told Kevin before, it was just a switch that went off in my head, and that was it. I was done, finished. But it's a complete non-issue, and therefore it's a complete non-issue to everybody I know.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And so I just do all the same things.
Yeah.
I go to the pub, we have dinner parties. It's just not an issue. But the biggest issue last weekend, or the weekend before as well, two weekends, have been kombucha. Because people don't know what it is. So we would bring that then.
And they drink it all.
Never drunk alcohol since we had children, and the youngest one is 26 years old or something. So she hasn't drunk. So back to your situation where you say one partner is drinking, the other isn't. I will still one out. I've joined Sarah's team now. And that's been incredibly positive. Positively received by her, but also I think it's just, I carried that as a bad conscience for years. I wanted to quit. Exactly what you said.
Right.
Today I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
6 o'clock, I used to have a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
And it was just that habit, and it drove me absolutely spare. It was the only thing in my life I was in control of.
Right.
And I couldn't sort of man up the approach I took. I'm so stubborn, I can do this. And then I couldn't. So it was just really annoying, and annoying for a very long time.
Yeah.
So when that switched, I said,
What changed?
But I think on. I don't know. I was just in the Lake District, and so it was 10 o'clock in the morning. Had a coffee. I looked to the right, out the window, and I thought, I'm not drinking it.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
It was as weird as that.
Yeah.
But obviously, there must have been a lot more stuff going on.
I don't think it ever happens. I don't think it ever happens overnight. You know, I think you say that there's that switch, but I think there would have been. There will probably been a build up over many years, and it goes back to what I said before. You know, you've got to be ready to, and you've got to want to start. And until both those elements are sort of aligned, but yeah, I mean, I can totally appreciate what you're saying. I think it's all an inside game. It's all an internal thing, you know. And it's like you can't control what other people are doing around you. You know, you've got to let them get on with things. All you can control is how you show up and what you believe. You know, and if you're comfortable and happy with the fact that you're not drinking, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. You know, and arguably if you feel uncomfortable, it's often, you know, about other people. It's often, you know, that perhaps you're not comfortable for whatever reason. Like I know I don't feel comfortable being around my closest group of mates beyond about 90 minutes with them in social situations because I don't enjoy being around people when they're really pissed. Because they end up getting really close and kind of like repeating themselves and you know all this, and you just sort of
because I think I've shared all of them already.
Yeah.
I was thinking that.
Mid-40s. I've still got a close group of mates who do still drink quite a lot. You know, and they still behave in many ways sort of the same as they would have done. We would have done 25 years ago. You know, not as frequently, but it's still a big part of their lives, and but you know, for them, it's not really an issue. You know, that's just it is, and I think that's the other thing. It's some people can just deal with it. They're not interested. Sobriety doesn't interest them. You know, and actually they love drinking, and that's fine. That's up to you. You know, brilliant. I'm happy for you. You know, and in some ways, it's like. You know,
there is something in this though, so I think about this whole age. I think I stopped drinking at the right age because it was a non-issue, because a lot of people that I see struggling with it and like find it hard are still in that pub culture. They're in their late 20s, mid-late 20s, and all the social groups are still doing it, and then it's really hard for them because they're the one that's broke free, but then it's like, right, that's where like the sober communities and the groups and stuff, they really need that.
Established, you need that friendship group.
Yeah,
you think you do at least.
Yeah, and I see, and because when I decided to stop drinking, I think I think you just summed up exactly how I felt, because it was like when I stopped, non-issue, none of my mates, don't bother, non-issue. And they still all drink. I mean, we're all meeting up. We always do like meet up as a big groups. We're all over the UK, Amsterdam, all this kind of thing, and we all get together. And we've got one next week in London, and it's like, but it's evolved now. It's like it's a non-issue that I don't drink, and what I find is that when other people won't drink as well, it's funny how it rubs off. And it's really interesting. But age, definitely. If I was in my 20s, it would have been too hard. I would have struggled a lot more, I think.
I think it's going back to your question as well about socially, have I changed socially? Yeah, and I think I just thought part of it's because I think I have fundamentally changed as well in the last 3 years quite a lot, and part of that I think is my values. You know, my values, what I value in life. You know, what I perceive, who I perceive that I want to show. Because I was quite self-absorbed. You know, before it was very much about me and what were things that I wanted to do that were going to give me instant gratification and pleasurable experiences. And it was quite a sort of a take sort of selfish approach to life, really. Whereas now, I'm much more about, you know, I'm in service of others. You know, whether it's in my coaching, whether it's the work I do at charity, you know, whether it's supporting other people to help them make progress in their lives, my running coaching, my running groups, whatever it is. I'm much more now interested in helping other people make progress in their life, because that in turn makes me feel good. So my values have changed, and I think spiritually I've changed as well. Like I'm a much more spiritual person. Like I've never been religious. I'm not a religious person in the slightest, but I'm quite spiritual now. Like I I enjoy, I'm open to things like, like your Kirsty Gallagher's of this world and, all of this kind of stuff. I'm much more open to mindfulness and meditation and, all this kind of stuff. Like and this is this sort of spiritual side. Whereas my mates, they just think that that's just bullshit, basically, and that's fine. I'd never expect them to get involved with that, but I'm open to it. I'm quite interested in it.
Just the reason I laugh, not about mindfulness, a big thing about that, the ability to, it's one of the reasons why I did yoga a lot with my early 30s. It's like, it's the meditation side more than anything. You get nothing else to concentrate on.
Yeah.
But there's this, you just say that because there was a skit about, have you seen this stand-up comedian, and it's just like doing the rounds, and it's about mindfulness. And he was like, and he's saying, oh, this new craze about mindfulness. It's like, I just don't get it. It's like, and he's in his late 40s, 50s. He's like, man, before mobile phones, when I was a kid, it was like, I had no phones. We had none of this. We had none of that. So all I had, if I was on the school bus and it was raining, but I was on that bus for 40 minutes, was to watch a raindrop go from the top
that was
to the bottom.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's mindfulness.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hilarious, isn't it? It's
yeah.
like, and it's like, you don't remember VHS.
Yeah.
And it's like, or having to rewind the film after you've watched it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you have to sit there 5 minutes. Mindfulness.
Getting a paper set and a pencil and doing it to right at the top.
Mindfulness.
And
it's so funny because it makes you think. It's like everything that we talk about now, and it's a big thing because we're in this world of always on.
Yeah, we are. We're an inability to disconnect from things, and for me, running is meditative for me.
Yeah.
But I said before, running. One of the reasons I love running is it gives me a sort of sense of freedom, but it kind of helps me create a void in my head where there's often a lot going on. So it kind of creates that void, and then I'm able to get into sort of a meditative state. So yeah, that's that.
You know what it is? I know you're gonna go. It's all good. It's all good. You're gonna. No, go. Are you meeting someone in the pub? No. This was so motivational. It's like, balls to this. I'm drinking. No, I'm joking.
I'm driven into that.
Yeah, just take whatever flavors you want. You know the one last thing to wrap up, and it's like, what was it? You asked the question, what made you change? It was Cora being born, but then I always think, and I had this internal struggle, it was like, when we put Cora to bed, we'd have a glass of wine, and then, or a bottle of wine. And I always thought, if something happened to Cora, I'm useless. Can't get to the hospital, can't drive her anywhere, got to rely on ambulance or someone else. And I always think about that, it's like, how can you drink and you've got a massive responsibility. And as soon as that happened, that switch, I was like, what am I doing? And that was it.
I think for me I just got to the point where I felt like I'd exhausted all of the positivity out of my relationship with alcohol that I could ever have. I think because it wasn't just a personal sort of separation from alcohol, it was vocational as well. My whole life, inside and outside of work, had been wrapped up in booze for so long. Just got to the point where it's like, I just had enough. I feel like I've completed alcohol. I'm done.
You've done it.
I've done it. Like,
I've collected all the.
I've got everything. I've visited vineyards all around the world. I've been to distilleries. I've been to breweries, and like for the vast majority of that time, nice to see you.
See you later. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. For the vast majority of the time, like, it was pretty good fun, like I don't regret anything really. I feel in some ways quite grateful for the experiences that I had, for the people that I met, for the job, the career that I built, and it just got to the point where I was like, I just feel like I'm moving into a slightly different phase of my life where I think there's other stuff I want to explore where alcohol doesn't form part of it, and that's why I go back to this idea that it's given me the freedom to be able to do that. And the freedom to be able to explore other things in my life, which, when I was still drinking, I think that came first. Just prioritise it. Whereas now I prioritise, my values, you know, being open and honest, seeking opportunity, adventure, and respecting and inspiring other people. So
Imagine prioritising alcohol. I always think of that as well. It's like we used to, we wouldn't do anything. When I think about it now, we wouldn't do anything unless, and it always revolves around alcohol.
there was a meal or a pub, like a walk, we'll go for a Sunday
Everything
walk, we're
needs to be
at the end of
weighted,
it. We'll go on holiday, oh right, is there going to be like a vineyard nearby that we can visit or something like that?
Everything revolved around it. Like all decisions. Like, oh, that new restaurant, but how far is it away? Taxi, that's a bit pricey for the taxi, and it dictates things. But now, I mean, we've got current stuff, like, so we don't eat out at fancy restaurants anymore, but it's like, we can drive. It's a non-issue. I like that. It's a non-issue.
But and this all goes back to my, you know, my theory, my concept around freedom. You know, like the freedom that you get from it, the freedom to, you know, live your life without, you know, the constraints or being, you know, constrained by the idea of always having to have somewhere you can go for a drink. You know, it's liberating. You know, it's a liberating way of living your life, and it doesn't happen overnight. Don't get me wrong. It takes 3 months, 6 months, a year for people to get to that point. But you know, I always say to people, don't give up before the magic happens. You know, because it will happen at some point. Something will click, and you'll be like, okay, this is all right. Okay, I can handle this. You know, I'm comfortable with this. And I think when that happens, you'll find that people are probably more likely to be in a place where they can make it a conscious decision whether they do or don't want to choose to have a drink or not. And that's kind of where I feel I am. Like, I sort of still, in some ways, retain the right to choose whether I will or won't have a drink at some point in the future. You know, and as I said before, I don't know whether I will or I won't. You know, that's not for me to say. I don't know what the future holds. But if I did, I know it would be a conscious decision. It wouldn't be an involuntary reaction to being like, oh, I'm in a pub. What do you want to drink? Oh, yeah, I'm passed out. You know, it's a conscious decision. You know, and I know that I can make that consciously without it feeling like it's an automated response.
I think that wraps this up really neatly, and that was a nice little bowl. It was like we planned it to end on freedom. Yeah, there we go. Done. Awesome. Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you very much, guys. That is the end of Nighttime Talk for an Expert with Rich Casement. Hope you enjoyed it.
Very much. It's been a pleasure. Good to see you. Yeah. Whereabouts in Norway are you from?